Today we are going to build off of our last lesson that we learned that had to do with like the basic parts of a 3D shape. Today we're going to move more into some more traits of a 3D shape, like the net of a 3D shape. The net of a 3D shape is what it looks like when it's unfolded, and basically like put on a piece of paper what it would look like. All right, but we'll get into that. Quick, let's just review of a 3D shape. There are a couple vocab words that we need to know. Faces or lateral faces are basically like the sides of a 3D shape. So in this in this pyramid, the sides are triangles. Those are our lateral faces. A vertex is any point basically on the shape. Would be a vertex. Sometimes you might see the word as vertices because that's just the plural version of the word vertex. We also have edges. Edges are like the lines of this shape, okay, where two of those faces intersect along that edge. Okay. So as we move into taking notes. Now, some of you may have printed off this page. If you didn't print it off, you're just going to kind of want to follow along with the format as we kind of explore with some of these 3D shapes, some of their characteristics, and then unfolding it. So let's get into that. All right. Here we have a shape right here. Okay. I'm turning it around just so you can kind of like see all around it. Okay, and we on our note page are going to first fill out the base shape. Remember the base. There are two bases in a shape. So if we go back to that interactive tool, we are looking at what shape in this figure is there only two of that are the exact same. So if we're looking at these rectangles, it looks like there's 4 of them, so that can't be the base because there's 4. So if we look at like this front and the back, those are squares, right? So the base shape we could say is a square. Now we're not certain that they're perfectly even, so to err on the side of caution, we're going to just say rectangle. Okay, the number of bases. Again, in a prism, there are only 2 bases. So there's only 2 of those squares. The lateral side shape. So now we're looking at the shape of those sides. They should all be the same since it's a prism, and they are all rectangles. Okay, the number of lateral sides. Now the number of lateral sides in a shape is going to depend on that base. Okay, do you see how our base right here is a square? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides coming off of that base. And there's going to be a lateral face coming off of every single one of those sides. Okay, so in this shape, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lateral sides. Okay. This is a prism because those side shapes are rectangular, which makes it a prism. If the side shapes are triangular, that's a pyramid. So since the sides are rectangles, this is a prism, and the name of the base names that shape. So this is a rectangular prism. Okay. Now what I was talking about is with nets. A net is basically what we call a shape when it's unfolded. Okay, so I'm sure at some point throughout our lives, we've unfolded a cereal box or just like a shoe box or something that is a rectangular prism, a tissue box, in order to put it like in the recycling bin. So I'm going to kind of show you this one here, and then we'll play with another one of what that looks like when it gets unfolded. Okay, so this is basically what the net of a rectangular prism is going to look like. Let's pop on over to this other one, and I can show you again what it looks like as we are unfolding that rectangular prism into a net. Okay, Main things to notice with our rectangular prism. Okay, sides that are opposite from each other are going to be equal. Okay, so this shape is going to be the exact same size as that shape. The front and the back shapes are going to be the exact same as well. And then that bottom and this top piece have to be the exact same as well in order for it to like fold it up. Okay, because if this side was a little bit bigger than this side, we'd have gaps in that box and it wouldn't fold to close perfectly. Okay, like how it does when it's closed. So we're going to keep unfolding it. You're going to notice that 4 of those, the bases, and then the top and the bottom are connected every other. You can't have like the front right next to the back because then it wouldn't fold across from it, if that makes sense. Okay, do you see how that folds kind of like across from each other? So we couldn't have that shape be right here because then it would fold right next to it. It just wouldn't make a box. Okay. You can also notice that that front and back side are identical. They're the exact same size and they are across from each other. We could not have this side coming off of this little square here because that side would not then match up with the length of that, okay, to fold up perfectly. So on our note page, we are going to draw what this net is going to look like. I like to just do it vertically, so I'd have my square for my base, or well, we said rectangle because we weren't sure. Then a little bit bigger one. Then I go back to the shape because it goes every other. Back to my square looking rectangle and then my bigger rectangle. Now I have to put those 2 sides coming off of one of these. It doesn't have to be the second one. It could come off of this way. But just to make it easier, I like to just pop it off of here. And there we have our net. Now, when we're done drawing our net, we do want to make sure that it has 6 squares, because think of like a dice. A dice has 6 sides. That's a cube because they're all squares, but a cube is a rectangular prism, just like how a square is a type of rectangle. So we should count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, and we would know that that is correct. All right, let's move on to our next shape. All right, the next shape we're going to look at looks like this. Let me just spin it around for you a little bit so you can kind of see what that all looks like. Okay. So let's take a peek at it. We want to know, to fill out our note page, what is the shape of the base or the bases? Okay. Remember, we've got some rectangles, we've got some triangles. Okay. There's going to be 2 bases because this is not a pyramid. We're going to have 2 bases, and which of these shapes is there only 2 of? Has got to be that triangle. Okay, so our base shape is a triangle. The number of bases is going to be 2. There was a triangle in the front. Oops, that's my workout page. There's one in the front and then one in the back. Okay. Then we have the lateral side shapes. So what shape are the sides? You should be able to fill that one out on your own. Those are rectangles. How many are there? Now, if the base is a triangle, the triangle is going to have 3 sides. Okay, and there's going to have to be a rectangle coming off of each one of those sides. So if we flip around, there's 1, 2, 3, because there's 3 sides to a triangle. So there's 3 rectangular shapes, 3 sides. And then to name that shape, our base is a triangle. The sides are rectangles. So this is called a triangular. Remember, the name of the base gives you the shape that name would have. And then, so since the base is a triangle, it's triangular. And since the sides are rectangles, it's a prism. If the sides were triangles, it would not look like that, first of all, but then it would be a triangular pyramid if the sides were all triangles. Okay, but this has sides of rectangles, so that's a prism. Let's go back and look at that net. We'll watch it unfold. We've got our 2 triangles and our 3 rectangles. Just make sure that those 2 triangles are across from each other. Now in this prism, those sides of those rectangles don't all have to be the same size. For example, the sides of this triangle can be all different sizes. But so just keep that in mind. Okay, we'll go to our other interactive and we'll look at our triangular prism over there as we unfold it. And that's what our net looks like, just like it did in the other one. Okay, so when we take that over to our note page, we will draw 3 rectangles going down the middle. Okay, and then we have to have a triangle coming off of each side. Doesn't matter which one you do, just make sure that they're across from each other. So I could put them on this first rectangle, on the second rectangle, or on the third rectangle. That doesn't matter. They just have to be across from each other. Okay. Let's move on to our third shape. Okay. If you can, I want you to start kind of like filling out this note page as I'm showing you this shape. You don't have to wait for me to tell you the answer. You can always change it if you need to. But here we have another shape. I can't turn it around. The other one only had those 2 shapes, so I couldn't use the other website for this one. So I can't turn it around. Okay, but I'm going to tell you that this bottom has 4 sides. Okay, so the base shape, if it has 4 sides, is going to be a rectangle, because remember, we can't assume that they're the same size unless they tell us like this is 5 inches, this is 5 inches, but they don't say that. So we assume that the base is a rectangle. The number of bases, now look at the shape. Is there going to be a base that's opposite of it up on top? No, because all the sides just meet at a point. It's not like rectangular prism where there's a base on the bottom and a base on the top. Okay, so in this shape, there's just 1 base on the bottom. Number of bases, 1. The sides of the shape. Okay, so the sides of the shape are triangles. You can abbreviate it if you need. You guys know I write big, so I can't fit that in there. The number of sides. Now think about it. If our bottom is a rectangle, so it has 4 sides, there needs to be a triangle coming off of each one of those sides. So there would be 1, 2, there'd be 1 coming off of this side back here, 3, and 1 coming off of this side over here, 4. Because if the bottom's a rectangle, which has 4 sides, it should have a triangle come off each side to make you 4. Now the shape name, okay, without even looking at it, there's 1 base. Okay, that base is a rectangle. So no matter what, that base is always going to name the shape for that first word. So this is going to be rectangular. Okay, because the base is a rectangle. Kind of a square, but we can't assume that, remember. And then the sides will tell us whether it's a prism or a pyramid. Okay, so our sides and prisms are rectangles. Here our side is a triangle. And when our side is a triangle, it is a pyramid. So this is a rectangular pyramid. Let's unfold that shape so that we can see what that net is going to look like. Notice how when I was talking about there's a triangle coming off of each side, now it might be easier to see. There's a triangle coming off of each side. And let me just redo that so you can see it one more time, just kind of folding up and folding back down. Okay, so let's draw that onto our net. We have our rectangle. We have a triangle coming off of each side. And that would be our net for a rectangular pyramid. Let's try something that's very similar. Okay, but it is going to be a little different. Now, looking at it like this, it looks the exact same as this. Okay, it's just taller, skinnier. But what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you that base shape down there cuts across right here. Okay, so that's not a square at the bottom or a rectangle at the bottom. That's going to be a triangle. And it would be easier if it would let me rotate it, but it does not. Sorry. Okay, how many bases are there? There's just one at the bottom. Notice how there's not one up at the top. All those edges just meet up at a vertex. So there's just one base. The side shapes. Shape of each one of those sides is going to be a triangle. How many sides are there? Well, if the base is a triangle, there's got to be one that comes off of each side of a triangle. So think, how many sides are there in a triangle? There's 3. So there should be 3 lateral sides, and we'll see that when it unfolds. The shape name. Remember, our base will always name the first letter, or the first word. This is triangular. And then to get that prism or pyramid, we look at what shape the side is. The sides are triangles, so that's a pyramid. Remember, in a prism, they are rectangles. In a pyramid, the sides are triangles. Let's unfold this to see what that net is going to look like. Let's do it one more time. Okay, so they're just unfolding. It's going to look something like this. All right, so in the middle, we need to draw our triangle. Then you basically just draw a triangle coming off of each side. It does not have to be perfect. Mine is not perfect. Okay, just as close as we can to make it look like the net that they have here. All right, we are going to do 2 more shapes. We're not going to fill up all these boxes. We're only going to do 2 more shapes that we're not going to get to until, I think, 8th grade is when you find, maybe 7th grade, the surface area and volume of these next 2 shapes. But I think it's in 8th grade. But that way, at least you're kind of familiar with them. All right, next shape looks like this. I want you to start filling out your note page. Try to do it on your own. If you want to pause the video so that you can try to fill it out and then just resume it to check, that would be awesome. Here we have a shape. Our base shapes are circles. Number of bases. 1 at the bottom, 1 at the top. Makes a total of 2. Lateral side shape. Now this is where it gets tricky. You can kind of use your resources and think of like a water bottle wrapper or a can wrapper. If you've ever taken one off and unrolled it, what shape that was. Okay. Let's just kind of unroll it so you can see. It's going to be a rectangle. Okay. So that lateral side shape is actually a rectangle. It's just all folded up or rolled up. Number of lateral sides, there's just 1. Notice how when we unrolled that, there's just 1 rectangle. Okay, just comes and wraps around perfectly. The shape name. Okay, now this is where we can't use our trick of a prism or a pyramid because this is not a prism or a pyramid. So that circle is not going to name it. Okay, this has its own name. This is called a cylinder. The spelling of that is right here if you need it. I'll also put it into my note page. This is a C-Y-L-I-N-D-E-R. And then we are just going to copy down that net. So I would like to start just always drawing that rectangle. Again, now it doesn't matter where on this rectangle you put that circle. You could put it here, 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 as long as the other one is just directly opposite. So if I put my circle here, I need to put my other circle here. I've had students remember this because it kind of looks like a division sign. All right, last shape. Again, if you want to try to challenge yourself, I want you to pause this video, try to do some of this on your own, and then you can resume to check. It is tricky, but I want you guys just to try. It doesn't hurt to try. All right, so first thing we need is that base shape. Looking at that base, I guess you can't really tell, but that goes around in a circle. So that base shape is a circle. Now there was only a base on the bottom. There was not a base on the top. It was like that pyramid where it all came to that vertex. So we only have one base. The lateral shape, we're going to come back to that because I'm going to show you the net for that. Lateral sides, it's going to be just like that cylinder where it's going to unfold perfectly. So there's only going to be one lateral side. Okay. Let's see what that lateral side shape is. So it's kind of like a third of a circle. So if we were to continue a whole circle, it's probably maybe even a little less of a circle, but it's kind of like a part of a circle, like a triangle, but then it's got that rounded bottom. So this is hard. There's not really a name for that shape. I call it like triangular. I don't know. Or like a half circle, even though it's really like a third of a circle. You could put like a third circle, however you want to describe that, so that you'll kind of remember what that looks like. Again, this kind of stuff's not going to be on your test. It's just good information to have for next year and 8th grade. All right. And then the shape name. Think about in real life what we have that looks just like this. You use them in gym class. You may eat something out of it when it's flipped upside down. This is called a cone. Okay. So the shape name is a cone, which is why an ice cream cone is called that, because this is the cone of the ice cream. It's just flipped up and then you put the ice cream inside. The net, again, let's undo that so we can draw it. There's like a third of a circle. So again, I would start by just drawing like that triangle shape, making it circular. Oops. And then we put that circle right underneath it. Just like that. All right. All right, so those are all of the nets that we need you to know in 6th grade. Some of your practice will have you talking or like choosing which net describes the shape. So you will need to know these names. So make sure that you are paying attention to these names when we're talking about that shape. Big thing to remember here is that base tells us the first word in the name. And then the lateral sides tells us whether it's a prism or pyramid. Wow, that rating is really bad. No judgments, right? Okay. So main thing to know, nets are just unfolded 3D shapes. That's about it.